with Trust Talks, an InsurTech Insights podcast hosted by Clearspeed. I'm your host, Danny Ng-Sik-Wan. Trust. It's on everyone's minds, whether it's with the consumer, the vendor, the insurer. These trusted relationships are critical to the industry, but are we doing all we can to build them? And are we firing on all cylinders when it comes to achieving profitability, efficiency, and consumer loyalty? We're on with Greg Crawford. Greg is based in New York, and he's the managing editor of P&C Specialist. He's also reported on business, whether Wall Street or capital markets. So let's hear what he has to say about the insurance industry. Welcome, Greg. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Danny. It's good to see you.
I'm going to get right into it. Insurance, for-profit industry. Where do you see money being left on the table? And what do you think insurers can do to address this?
I see insurers leaving money on the table in the areas of, which really speaks to the issue of trust, of where they spend a lot of money on advertising and marketing, which I understand. I'm not a marketer, but I understand it. But it seems to me that some of those assets could be better spent in terms of customer relations and really delivering a message to consumers like how we're here to help you, as opposed to simply, here's we've named a stadium, or, we're sponsoring this golf tournament, things like that.
Yes.
I understand like getting the word out, but they do that so well to begin with. And at some point it simply just becomes wallpaper. Right. And what are you actually doing to talk to consumers directly? Like, here's how we're here to help you. Yes. Because what I feel like is anyone who has an experience with an insurance company, it's really not usually a good thing, right? Something bad happens. So you get in a car accident, a storm, topples a tree onto your house. So you're starting out with sort of one hand tied behind your back. So you really have to work harder to kind of build that trust. And I feel there's a gap there that I think insurers could do a better job at.
I think it's a great point, Greg. And a couple of times during these conversations so far, we've heard folks say they also feel that they need to change the narrative, and also the education side of it to consumers. What do we actually do? Here's how you can use us. And also perhaps not limit the communications to, once a year or reminders of renewals, but more a continuous education. So I think that's a great point.
Yep.
On that topic, or in that vein, consumer trust has taken a hit. Like we talked about, the echo chamber kind of, and what folks are seeing in the media. And I'm going to speak to you as someone in the media, and the big stories that are coming out. So where do you think, other than perhaps not as strong a message as they could have, where else has the industry fallen off with that consumer trust aspect? And how do you think they can or should rebuild it?
So one of the areas that I think that you're seeing that trust fall off. So take auto insurance, for instance.
Yep.
The business has become super profitable. And a large part of that is because the carriers have been raising rates for the last 2 years or so.
Yeah.
Right. So COVID hit, nobody drove, everything went down, everybody came back. And so they're behind the 8 ball. And so there are many reasons why rates weren't where they needed to be, quote unquote. And so there have been significant rate increases over the last couple of years. And now these companies are making money hand over fist. And so the narrative out there is that just that, right? Yeah. So rates are higher and they're going higher. And, we report a lot when the company files for a rate increase, and you see that. And so where the gap is in terms of like communicating, and they'll say like, well, if we don't, and here's the story, it's like, if we can't get the rate that we need, we're going to pull out of that market. Well, that's not very helpful to me as a consumer.
Right.
Like, what am I left with? And if the story is, well, we have to get to this rate, otherwise we're not profitable. To your point, right? It's a for-profit industry. Well, I don't really care whether my insurance company is profitable or not. I care whether they're going to cover if I get an accident or something like that. So how do you tell that story? Like, here's why we're raising rates. Or are there ways that they can incent people so that a rate increase is not simply taking more money out of my wallet?
Yes.
Oh, does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And it's interesting as well that you say that. Previous conversation we had, there has been absolute acknowledgement that just simply increasing rates can't continue because everything does go down to the consumer ultimately. So it's like there is an awareness, but there's also a broader change to the system, right, I think, that needs to take place, where there's regulations that sometimes put a cap on, but then there's catastrophic events that you can't control that are also putting pressure on those rates. So, so to your point, it's kind of like this system maybe is not working. And I don't know if there's a way that they're like, what are the fundamental shifts that would need to happen for that system to work better? Like,
I think one of the areas, think about homeowners insurance. So I was at a conference a few weeks ago, and there was a presentation from a company about, and they surveyed homeowners in like Florida, Louisiana, and maybe Texas. And they asked the question, why aren't you preparing for hurricanes when you know they're coming? And they talked about how long it took for people to do something, build plywood on their windows. And it's like the day before the storm is going to hit, even though they knew maybe a week earlier storm was forming and things like that.
Yeah.
And what could, where's the gap? Where do the insurance companies fall off? And it turned out that by and large, people don't trust their insurance company, right? So when something happens, they're not a trusted source, even though they should be.
Yes.
And so related to that, so closing that gap, I think, is important. And it's more than, so I saw a press release the other day from an insurance company, and they also surveyed consumers. And it was like, where are there gaps in home protection?
Yeah.
Well, that to me, I was like, okay, that's fair enough, but that doesn't really help a consumer. What they should have been asking is like, where can we as an industry or as a company help you close that? Where do you need help?
Yeah.
Right. So it seems like the insurance companies take this, it's about me approach, right? And they put out, we've set up our catastrophe tents, and we've closed X number 1,000 claims after this storm. That's all well and good, but how are you helping me whose roof got torn off, or my car just got totaled? And so I think that's where the gap exists, where they can close that gap. So for instance, with this press release, they could have surveyed companies and said, like I said, where are the insurance companies, where's the industry falling short in terms of helping you build that confidence so that when the storm hits,
yes,
you know that we're a trusted source. Like, is it, if you send me a list of approved contractors that I can use, how about that? That seems pretty simple to me. So it's little things like that.
Yes.
And I do see a lot of press releases coming out, a lot of the community involvement that companies are doing, and that's great. A company gives, a car to a disabled veteran and things like that. All those are all good things. I'm not saying they shouldn't do those things, but it's got to be more than that. It really has to be on a granular level.
Right.
Again, back to this press release. I mean, I hate to harp on it, but like, that's going to go out, and what are they hoping to get out of that?
Right.
Maybe a news organization like P&C Specialist would pick it up and run it. But like, if I'm, Joe Smith in Boise, Idaho, I'm not going to see that, and I don't really care, So
Sure.
I think there's definitely room for improvement
Yes.
around things like that.
What I'm hearing there, Greg, is that's feeding the perception that maybe is not fully accurate. And I'm saying that based on other conversations that I've had with folks who are aware of this, but seems to be the perception out there is like a lack of empathy in a way for the consumer, or
Right.
perhaps, falling down in building that insurer and consumer relationship.
Right.
The other thing that's come up quite a bit is consumers today, they're used to access to the things they need relatively quickly. We have Netflix, and it'll serve up suggestions for us, and we can add things to our shopping list, things like that. So then how can insurance be made more accessible? And to your point, all of the other things, like the added set of vendors or contractors I should be using to repair my roof, and
Right.
not just, kind of a set of limitations almost, but more like what is possible.
Mm-hmm.
It seems.
Right.
Do you have any examples you want to share on either side of this in terms of what we've talked about?
I think that flipping back to the auto side,
Yeah.
companies have spent a lot of money on developing apps, telematics, and I think
Yes.
there's an opportunity for them to tighten that relationship. We've heard it said like, the insurance companies should get to where sort of consumer banking is, with, stylized apps that help you, go in, deposit a check, move money around, pay your bills,
Yep.
just like that. And, the apps are pretty good. They're getting there, I think, on the insurance side of things. And so that's helpful. But it's not a critical. And again, if you have to go to your insurance app, it's probably not for a good reason. You're paying your bill. Ooh,
Right.
that's a stiff bill.
I don't really
Or-
want to be doing this.
Right,
in the first
right,
place.
exactly.
Yeah.
But, so what are there ways to kind of get over that hump? So,
Yes.
one is it in development, simply developing things that are more valuable to consumers. And that takes research, right? Talking to people and understanding what is it that you need that we can deliver for you. I know there's a hesitancy around telematics. Like, well, if I load, and it's sort of this sort of, push me, pull you type of situation where it's like, well, if you have our app, then we'll give you a discount. Well, if I put your app on my phone, does that mean you're tracking my driving? Are you going to charge me more because I'm not, so how do you solve that problem, right? And I think, that's the perception, is that the reality, I don't really know. I don't know that there's a lot of research around that. But there's an area where clearly the insurance industry could say, we're not tracking you for that reason. We're tracking you to help you, give you tips, right? I was thinking about this morning, like what could the insurance industry do to kind of help that customer relationship improve? I thought, like, what about, and I got some email about, I forget what it was, but it was like, oh, if you do this, you get, this perk.
Yeah.
So what if you say, if you go 6 months driving without an accident or without a ticket, we'll give you a $50 gift card to something or other, or something along, not just like, oh, well, if you do this, oh, your safe driving record, so we'll lower your premium. I mean, that's good. But, we're in this society where, you have these rewards. So many things in our world is like reward, even the games that we play.
Yes.
Oh, we got a little cup that's useless, right? It doesn't, there's no value, but you do the game and you get a cup and you feel good.
Yes.
That kind of thing, I don't know if it's quite gamification, which is a word that people talk about.
It sounds like we're talking about consumerization, gamification, personalization, but also make the incentives speak to the customer at an individual level, as well as how it impacts their longer term record. And also what I was hearing from you is that there is perhaps a bit of that data exchange. I mean, we can call it a trust exchange, honestly. Right. It's like, well, I'm going to trust you to have my data and trust that you're going to do good things with it for me. Right. And I think there is, and it has been acknowledged as well, I think there is a lot of communication that has to happen around that. Yeah. Because in a different conversation, in a different practice that I had, that we talk about, okay, well, how much am I willing to give up if it's going to be convenient for me? Right. And, it's actually quite a bit. So to your point, finding that balance, I think is spot on.
Absolutely.
So to wrap us up, Greg, do you have a final takeaway, or for the leaders who are listening, is there something you would want them to know or something that you think they should be doing, like right now?
So in terms of what leaders in the industry ought to be doing, I would say it's again, I referenced this earlier, it's turn the focus away from themselves. It's not about, I mean, at the end of the day, it is what you're going to be able to get out of it, but it's really forward looking, outward looking, instead of like, here are the gaps. Here's where consumers are falling short in terms of, protecting your home or your driving habits, press release about how many teens get in accidents over. Okay, that's interesting. But if I'm a teen, well, first of all, I'm probably not going to see the press release, but like, it doesn't do me any good.
Target audience.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really that sort of like, it's not all about you. Yeah. It's about your customers and how do you connect with them, understanding, look, as I said at the beginning, they're almost starting with one hand tied behind their back. So it's a big job. I'm not saying it's easy, but think about like all the money that you're spending, in terms of advertising and promotions and marketing. Look, the top names we all know because they're ubiquitous. They're everywhere. Like, I don't really need to see another ad for State Farm or Progressive or else. I know that they're there. Right. And I understand, again, I'm not a marketer. I understand that, presence of mind, but like really like talk to your consumers, find out what they need and then figure out how to deliver that. Simple. I mean, simple to me.
Simple to you. I was going to say, okay, folks, so if you were questioning your narrative, you heard it first from the media right here, straight from the mouth of the babe. We'll leave it there, Greg. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
for being
It's
here.
great talking with you.